atrioventricular septal defect.
So welcome everyone. Welcome.
Hey y'all.
Welcome to the Bridge Builders of Diversity.
Hello.
Today we are talking about cardiac babies. Something that's near and dear to my heart because my son was born with Down syndrome and he had a VSD, which is a ventricular
Septal defect.
And he had a tiny ASD, which is a
Aortic septal defect.
and when he was 5 months old, it was repaired surgically, which is very frightening as a parent to hand your little tiny baby over to a team of surgeons who are going to put him on a bypass machine and fix his heart. It's a little frightening.
Scary. That is super scary.
Yep, and but he did fine, and he is growing.
He is magnificent.
Yes.
He's grown immensely last year.
So a lot of heart defects can be fixed. Some kids will need multiple surgeries. It can lead to educational problems, which Roberta will get into, and medical problems. I know my son had RSV, he had asthma, a lot of
lung issues
for a while, or anytime he gets a bad cold, that will kick up the asthma.
Right.
Yeah,
but that was one of the things I read about that.
Yeah.
Congenital heart defect can lead to asthma, ear infections, and just a general is more susceptible
to those things.
Right. Wow, that sentence came out wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You're just in general more susceptible to catching colds, getting sicker from
Mm-hmm.
a regular cold, and having asthma. So
Right.
Yeah.
So the common defects in children with Down syndrome, I'm going to use Sherry's son, for example, those types of children can have, there's like 4 common defects with their heart. Atrioventricular septal defect, which is a hole between the chambers of the heart. Patent ductus arteriosus, this is a channel that it's a channel that helps when the baby's in utero to get oxygenated blood back between mom and baby, and when the baby's born that slowly closes, and in some cases that remains open in some of these children. That needs to be repaired as well. Tetralogy of Fallot, that's like 4 different defects of the heart. There's a thickening in the wall of the the ventricles. There's also hole in the heart as well, which needs to be repaired. Pulmonary stenosis, and pulmonary arteries help provide oxygenated blood. So we all need oxygen to make our brains run.
Right.
The rest of the body to help with cell maturation.
What does stenosis mean? Does that mean a shrinking?
Stenosis is a tightening.
So that means less
oxygen,
right?
Right.
Yikes! That's
so those things are detrimental to a growing baby.
Absolutely.
So they come out when they're born. They may be very blue. They are generally failure to thrive. So that is a cardiac surgery that needs to be performed before baby's like 4 to 6 months. So
And remember the general rule, your heart is about the size of your fist. So a baby's
about
heart is about the size of a walnut.
tiny, and they've come so far.
That must be such intricate surgery.
It
I
is.
can't imagine the pressure and the.
Right.
And there's a time limit of how long they can keep a baby on bypass machine. So my son's age, I believe, was about 45 minutes, if I remember correctly.
So they had to
Very
move
quick.
quickly on this tiny organ.
Right.
Yes.
These
Holy
surgeons,
moly.
pediatric cardiac surgeons are amazing.
All right, so kudos to every
Cardiac
pediatric cardiac surgeon out
Amazing.
there.
Yes.
Now that we realize what you do,
Right.
you are
God bless. Thank
you.
you.
Are amazing.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
And we're so
Nate's
grateful.
here because of guys like
yes, we are.
men
We're
and
very
women
grateful
like
for all the
Yes.
children that you've saved. Right.
Yes.
So what we were going to talk about is leader illness and disabilities as a result of a congenital heart defect. So about 15% of cardiac heart defects are associated with a genetic condition, and about 20 to 30% of people with a cardiac heart defect have other physical problems or developmental or cognitive disorders. So as a teacher in the school, knowing a child's previous
History.
cardiac heart defect and congenital heart defect. I keep wanting to say cardiac heart defect, but that's redundant. That's
It
like
is.
saying a red door.
Congenital.
Congenital heart defect, right? So children are about 50% more likely to receive special education services even after they've recovered from a congenital heart defect, and that defect has been repaired. They're more likely to miss school. They're more likely to be sickly and very susceptible to catching the viruses and having them and taking longer to recover from them.
Right.
And they've done that.
Yeah, you have. So you know that from which I speak. So compared to children without a heart condition, children with a heart condition are more likely to have special health care needs. But and then it talks about the development of the children with congenital heart defects. They're more likely to have motor delays, so delays in crawling and walking, needing assistance. So this is where an early intervention team would come in and support the family in supporting the child's motor development. Hold on, my notes are all scattered all over the place. And I talked about they're more likely to be absent and more likely to have help. But this was interesting to me. They are more likely to have asthma, ear infections, but they're also more likely to have developmental disabilities like autism, spectrum disorder, or an intellectual disability, which was interesting to me. But there didn't seem to be, when I was reading what I was reading, didn't seem to say what the link was.
I wonder if it's preemies.
If these are preemies, because that's another group of children that are more likely to have developmental disabilities. But they're 2 times more likely to have seen a medical doctor and been treated for a variety of illnesses more frequently than children without a congenital heart defect, which was so impactful for families. I mean, you're thinking about, we were just talking about FMLA and the amount of time that people get. Some people only get 2 weeks. So you have a very sick child, you're going to need more time off from your job to take care of them. You're going to need time for doctor's appointments and things like that. So it's very, very impactful to families. And then
yes, it can be very difficult for parents who are juggling a child who has extra healthcare needs, that they may have to spend more time caring for them. Sometimes working different shifts can help, if both parents are able to, if you don't have extended family to be able to help you, or you have a place that the child can go. I know, like, my son, even after he had his heart surgery, he couldn't go to daycare until he could actually be picked up, because the baby, they cut open the rib cage and that's all wired together. So I had to cradle him and pick him up, and that's something, you want that fully healed before somebody who may not think and just go and grab the child and, damage or whatever it could do to the breastbone.
that's a lot, and that's a lot of responsibility to put on a
huge.
daycare provider.
Oh, yeah.
Right. But he had to be, I think, 8 weeks healed up before he could even return back to daycare, and that being...
Right, so that might lead to some of those other developmental delays that they referenced
it
in
does
the article.
stunt their growth,
The article I read was from the CDC, and they're missing out those social opportunities because they're too tired.
And developmental progress.
Right, so...
Right, because
thinking about crawling, walking, there's so much energy is going to healing from that surgery. So they're going to be a little bit behind.
Yeah, because with my son's heart defect, which causes like a congestive heart failure, he would sleep most of the time. So he wasn't doing stuff that a normal 4-month-old baby would be doing, because he was mostly sleeping. And I remember giving him a bottle, and basically... I was lucky if I could get an ounce in an hour, and we literally fed him from 5 o'clock in the morning to 11 o'clock at night, because I did not want him to have a feeding tube, because with some babies, when they lose that ability to eat,
It takes longer for them to develop it to regain.
Right. So I didn't want to do that. So from 5 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock in the evening. I did every hour, and I would literally be like, Nathan, to try and keep him awake to eat. And then his father, when he got home from work, would take over till 11 o'clock at night. And I have a logbook of how many ounces he got. I still have that logbook of all the ounces he got to make sure he had enough caloric intake, because we had to get him big enough for the surgery, because surgeons do like it if you can get them a little bigger. Instead of these little tiny things, so because the heart's a little bigger, it's a little easier for them to work on. So
and they've only got 45 minutes.
Yes, and they have a short amount of time. Short
Under
window.
anesthesia for an infant.
For infants, and so that was something that we had to do, and that was a choice we made. And no judgment if somebody decides, and you may not have the ability with work or whatever, you may have to do the feeding too. But that was something. I didn't want to do, because my friend Krista had a daughter who was a preemie who had cardiac surgery and had some issues with the feeding, which kind of, because I had that personal experience and I had the means at the time that me and the father could do it, and he was a night owl and I woke up at the crack of dawn, so that worked, and if you have to work different shifts for a while,
but
or whatever.
If you can imagine, again, we're trying to build a bridge of understanding. Imagine what it's like for a family to have this kind of health issue and a brand new baby, and
thankfully he was my second child, because my first son was big. He was like 3-4 months old when he was born. So
he was a big boy.
He was a big boy.
He was like a 3-month-old, she's saying.
Yeah, very healthy. His first bottle, he drank 3 or 4 ounces. So I at least had the experience of being a mom with a very healthy child. So it gave me some confidence with Nathan. But I can't imagine if Nathan was my first child, how that would have affected.
Absolutely.
The
fear and
the cover, and I still had a lot of fear with Nathan. I was even afraid to take him home from the PICU, because he had to go in the PICU, because a lot of kids with his type of heart issue can't coordinate eating, breathing, and drinking their bottle. And my son would turn blue. His very first bottle, thank God the nurse had him. That I probably would have freaked out about. But again, he was my second kid, so I was like, I was still tired from having the C-section and everything, so I gave the nurse permission to give him his first bottle, where a first-time mom would probably want to be doing that, but it was a blessing that the nurse had him. She had him at the nursery. She had oxygen right there and could take care of that, and then they got him packaged up to go down straight to the PICU after that. He was in a little incubator and stuff like that, so... Yeah, but I mean...
When you say PICU, you mean pediatric ICU?
Yeah. Yes, because he was still in the hospital that he was born in, so he went into a PICU instead of like an intensive care unit. So it was specifically designed for what he needed, and for his size. Yes.
And it may be called a NICU in other...
Yes, other places it would be a NICU. Just where we were, it's called a PICU. So
neonatal versus pediatrician.
Right.
Infants.
So the next thing I'm going to look up is the difference between a PICU and a NICU.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
It could just be the name.
Could just be the name, yes. It's all in the name. And our name is the Bridge Builders of Diversity. I am Sherry. I'm a mother of a child with Down syndrome. Kimmy is a nurse. Roberta's a special educator. And we're trying to bridge that bridge of understanding between the typical community and the special needs community, which is a big facet of people. And there's not a lot of conversation anymore about the special needs community, so we want to
keep that conversation going. If you've learned something from this video, or you want to learn more, like
thumbs,
share, mash all the buttons, share, subscribe, and drop us a comment and let us know if you like this content, if you want to know more on the topic. We love learning new things. We love building bridges, so we're here to bring you more content.
Yes.
So we appreciate you. Thanks so much for listening.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, guys.